Hey, Scott Austin here from Jade Puma. In this video, I'm going to talk about a Postman routine that I put together today. The problem I came up with was changing product template in bulk is not an easy thing to do in Shopify. You can't, when you export products and you can edit, product things like product type, description, images, template's not in that list when you do an export from Shopify. Now there are apps that let you export the template and you can edit the template there. But in Shopify, the way they want you to do it in the Shopify admin is in bulk edit. So let me just show you what that looks like and how much of a nightmare that can be. So, and the problem I have is we launched this new design today for FL&B, Fine Linen and Bath, and it has this pretty intricate product form for bedding. You can switch between different ways to order. You can filter by different things. We bucketize the variants. You can, all sorts of fun stuff. And the problem is for Fine Linen and Bath, they have 3,200 products in their bedding category. So what I had to do today was change the product template for 3,200 products. And that can take a long time. If you do it manually, it'll take forever, obviously. But here I am in Fine Linen and Bath Shopify admin, right? And what I could do is I could go to products, and I could find all of the products in the collection bedding. Hit done, and then you could select them and say I want all of them. Now there's 3,200 products in this. And then if I go to edit the products, I've got to change the columns to show template. And unfortunately, when you get rid of all the other columns, it still leaves all the variants in the display. So it ends up taking, and some of these, we can't see it yet, but some of these products, and you see here now we're going to load up some more, right? And it's doing it in chunks of 50 or 100, whatever the number is. Some of them, here we go, the products start having more and more variants. So in one page view, you only get one product to show up. So it becomes really difficult in this to change them. Now, in theory, what you could do, if the variants weren't there, it would have been easier. I could just select this one, and this one already has the template that I want, and I could just drag that down to all the other ones, and it would change them. But what happened as I started doing that is, as I started loading up more and more products, sometimes there's only one per page, so you just click on it, and it takes forever to select them. But then loading that many products, it takes a long time to load, and then it would just crash on me every once in a while. And sometimes it would only crash when I tried to save. So, you'll sit here for, half an hour doing all these little things that I'm talking about, hit the save button, and nothing happens. It just, starts spinning and all, and you're like, lost. So you lose a lot of time. So I didn't trust the reliability of the Shopify bulk editor to do the work that I wanted to do with thousands and thousands of products. So instead I said, well, is there a way that I can do this in Postman? Now, I've done a Postman video before, and I'm going to assume you've watched that already because it has some foundational things that I'm not going to go over. I'm just going to show you how I got Postman to work for changing product templates. So I'll have a link in the show notes or the description to the other video about Postman if you haven't seen that one before. So what I did today in Postman is opened it up, and I added Fine Linen and Bath as an environment right here. And what that does, you got to create a private app inside of Shopify, and then take your app credentials, username, and password, and add them as environments. And I cover that in more detail in the other video, right? So that was done. And then up in collections, I created one today for Fine Linen and Bath. In the previous video, I talk about how you can get this Shopify from Postman section with lots of templates on how to do API calls. So I looked in the product ones. I actually just copied the product one and brought it up to fine linen and bath. And I've deleted all the entries I didn't use, but then I ended up keeping 3 of them, right? The first one was, retrieve a count of products. Um, and it's nice because this was just, I pulled it straight out of that template from the Shopify for Postman stuff. And I could just, under parameters, I checked the collection ID, put in the collection I wanted, which is the bedding one. And then I could just send, and it would come back. Well, that's not the bedding one. That's a different one with 172. So if I do the bedding one, let me just do that. Find that collection ID. So I'll show you where collection IDs come from in the Shopify admin. All you have to do is bring up that collection inside of the Shopify admin. And in the URL is where you'll see the ID. So if I go to bedding, right here, the URL ends with the collection ID. So I can just copy that and put that in here. You can tell how long that collection's been around by how few characters that collection ID has. Save that, and now run it, and that's 3,600. Because it also has a lot of draft files. I said it was 3,200, and when I looked at it on the front end of the Shopify store, there's 400 products that are in draft mode. That's why there's 3,600 total. So that was my way to see, how many products were in there. It was easy to do. I only used that once or twice. Then I used this other one, retrieves a list of products. And this one I played with a lot. So one of the unfortunate things that I found out is, and you can see it right here, maximum 250. So the limit of how many products you're going to pull, the maximum is 250. Now I got 3,600 products, so obviously there's a problem there. So, I'll show you how I ended up, working around that. And then on this one here, here's our collection ID. The product type is redundant with collection ID. I was trying different things, just searching all products for product type. I didn't end up using that in the end, so I'll just move that down. I use the collection ID. And then I actually add 2 field entries because I wanted to be checking every once in a while. You see what happens if I just send this one off. Oh, I've got the since ID, so I'm going to turn that off and hit send. This all makes sense in a second. So here I would query for 250 products because that's the limit you can do inside a Postman, which is probably a Shopify API limit. And if you actually do it higher than this, right, watch what happens if we say, well, let's just do 300. We'll send that off, and you'll get the error back, limit exceeds the 250. So we got to respect that 250. Send that off. And then the fields here, right, this is just saying which elements about the products do I want back. And I wanted ID and template suffix. So here you can see, here's the ID for the products and the template suffix. And that way I was able to see, these ones do need to be changed. Or no, it looks like all the products, have the right suffix. And that's why I made 2 field entries, because when it came time to cutting and pasting, which I'll show you here in a second, I just toggled between the 2 and hit send. And now it just has the IDs. So having 2 field rows here and toggling between one and the other was a nice way for me to say, well, I want to check more information, so let me show that bigger list. But when it comes to cutting and pasting, I want a shorter list of information, and I can just toggle back and forth between the 2 of them. So what I did is I pulled this in. Now I got 250. I pulled them, and I hit Control-A to select all, copy, and then I opened up a Excel spreadsheet, which I had named Product IDs. I'm just going to open up a new tab to show you what I did. And I just took this in here and I pasted it. And then over here on Product IDs, I'm just going to copy this header. Because you need a header at the top of your list. And I'll show you how I process this in a second. It's really easy. to just make it a list of the ID numbers. So what I was trying in the beginning was saying, all right, show me only products with a certain template suffix, which is nice, right? So I can say, show me products with the template suffix of bedding and send. And let me actually just toggle between the other field, which shows the suffix, the template suffix. And you can see they all say bedding. Now, if I said, show me all the products with the template suffix test, it came back with all the, all the bedding ones. So I'm not sure, because I added this template suffix key here. You can see the ones that came from the Shopify from Postman templates. Those are the ones with a description on them. The other ones are the ones with a blank description I added. So what I was trying to do was see if I could just filter for products with a certain template suffix, because that would have made this process easier for me, because what I could do is pull down 250 of them that aren't, template suffix of bedding. If I could just say, default or null or whatever. But that wasn't working. So it was an idea that I had. Hopefully, if you're doing this, you can figure out how to get that to work, because that way I could have pulled 250 down that weren't bedding, change them, which I'll show you here in this put up here, change them to what I wanted them to be, bedding, and then go back and run it again, and it would get me the next 250 that don't have the right template assigned to it. But that didn't work. So what I had to do instead was pull this first 250 down, and then take the very last ID and copy that. And then there's a key here for since ID, which restricts results to after a specified ID. So then I just took that, pasted it in, and then hit send. And that would give me the next 250. I would do a Control A. Let's use the other field entry. Send. Click down in the lower area, Control A, copy. Go into my spreadsheet, go to the last item by hitting Control down arrow, and then paste again. And now I've got 500 of them listed. And I did that until I got all 3,600 in my spreadsheet. And that's this list over here. So then the next thing I did, so let's assume I've done that however many times I have to do to get all 3,600 in here. Then the next thing I did in this spreadsheet was, and this becomes a little finicky, right? Because what happens is, and you can see it over here, and I ran this, uploaded it into the next step I'll show you, where you go in and do your puts and your Postman API stuff. And I would be getting like 50 of them working properly and 200 not. And I realized in the end the cause of that was exactly what we see here, where for some reason Excel tries to be smarter than I think it should be sometimes. And this is one of the examples of it, where this number here, I wish it would just show this number in this cell over here. Instead, it shows this stupid exponential format thing. And you'll see here that in my format cell, it says general, but it does that exponential thing when there's long numbers by default. And that ended up screwing up my CSV file, because Excel knows what that is. But when the CSV got saved, the CSV then saved that as a 7.104000000 or something like that. So all my IDs were getting lost, right? So the next step I'm going to show you here in the other tab was an important one. So what I did here is just sorted this from, go to data view and sort from Z to A, and then just took the first, hundreds of rows here, and deleted those. And then I selected all, set it, instead of general, I set it to be a number, right here, number. So I'm defining this as a number. And then I went in and copied that, all the number of spaces, right? And then select column A again, hit Control F to get my find menu, paste in what I just copied, hit the replace tab. I'm going to replace it with nothing. So just leave that blank and then select replace all. So now it just made 500 replacements, and that math works out, right? I ran 250 twice, so I've got 500. So it's good that my numbers are matching there. And now I'm going to take my number, and I'm going to reduce my decimals, and then save this as a CSV file. And I'm going to close this file out and not save it, because I don't know if these will be corrupted or not. Now that I opened it up in Excel and it's gone to this exponential formatting thing, even though on that tab I had done this and defined them as a number, it still does. Like I said, I think Excel tries to get too smart sometimes. So that's just something you're going to have to work with and make sure you don't mess that up. So let's close that out and not save. So now what you should have done by now is gotten a list of all the product IDs that you want to change your template on. And you've got those in a CSV file that only has at the very first row the product underscore ID header, and then just numbers below it for however many products you're going to change the template for. And then you go to the put, right? So in the Shopify from Postman templates, under products, there's products, right? There's a put, and I just used this template and customized it for what I was doing. So what we did here is I added this body so we're not using parameters in this one, we're using the body method. And I don't know why, I don't know Postman well enough to know why this works versus the parameters. But in the body, I just did this code here, and you can see we're taking the product ID. Now the cool thing here is, here you can see the API key, right? It shows you where it's coming from, the environment. So that was over here in my environment under Fine Linen and Bath, I have an API key. And I'm not going to show that screen to you because it shows both my username and password, which you could use to access the store. And I just don't want that information out there, right? Keep the store a little secure. But as you hover over each of these variables, it'll show you where that information is coming from. Environment, API version. Now, the API version, I have that set up as a global setting. And right now, the current API version that Shopify is using is 22.10. You can see right there. But as you're in these elements, you can see where your, let me just get back to my collections put. There we go. You can see where your, sorry, I'm just closing out extra stuff. So here you can see where these elements are coming from. So the API version is coming from your global settings. The store name is coming from your environment. Now, if we go over to product ID, you can see here that it's not defined anywhere, but that's where we define it here. We say, all right, we're going to pull that product ID, and in that product ID, we're going to change the template suffix, which is the API name for the template. So that's basically everything after the product, right? If you look inside the Shopify admin that we have under the code, right? Let's just show it to you. If we go to a product here, and you look under templates, right? Bedding, there's default bedding, and all these other ones we've got. So the bedding, that is the template suffix or suffix template, whatever it's called here. Template suffix. So we're telling it, hey, take this product ID and then change the template suffix or set the template suffix to bedding. And if it's already bedding, it'll just do the same thing. And then I also had to set up a test. And the template that you get from Shopify from Postman down here, it doesn't have tests set up. So I talk about that in my previous video. It took me a while to figure it out, but this one here was the test I needed. I had copied from a previous recipe that I had done before, and in that one the status was 201. So I had copied and pasted it in here, and I was still getting errors when I ran it. And let me show you what that looks like when we get an error. Well, we'll do a run in a second, and then I'll show you the errors there. And then I figured out, it's looking for the status response of 200. So I changed the code from 201 to 200, and that's working good now. So how do we run this now for 3,600 products? What we have to do now is go into our runner, and the runner is down here, this little button down here, runner. So we open up runner, and we pull in the put, just drag and drop, and it brings in everything in the same folder. Now, I don't need to run the get a whole bunch of times, so I'm going to turn those off. We're just going to run the put. And then over here, we have to select a file. So we made that CSV file. So here, we're going to bring up the CSV file, which was product ID CSV. And here it knows that it automatically just called up 3,680 records in that file. So that's a nice check also that, that sounds like about the right number of products that we're going to be uploading. So, the file loaded up properly. All right. And then I also set a delay on this. I ended up getting a lot of 404s, and that ended up being because the issue with the product IDs with that scientific notation in Excel messing things up. Things are coming back as 404s, and I didn't realize it at first. And then I was getting 429 errors and things like that. So I thought maybe I was inundating the API. So what I was doing was I said, all right, I'm going to put these 100 milliseconds apart, which is like a tenth of a second, I think. So you probably want to set a delay anyways. And it wasn't a delay that was causing my problem. It was my scientific notation issue with Excel that was causing the problems that I was having. But I ran this just an hour or two ago, or a couple hours ago, and it took 2 hours to run at 100 millisecond delay with 3,600 products. But the nice thing is, as it runs that, Postman just runs it, and you can watch it or just put it, in another screen and go on with your work. You don't have to sit there and watch it run. So if we hit run, find linen and bath, right? So you'll see it's going to start working. So passed. You can see the status up here, and it shows you what's going on. So this is a nice verification that it's working. I'm going to stop the run. I'm going to go back over here and show you what happens if you have the wrong code in there. Save that. And then go back to here and run again. And now we're getting this error, expected status error code 201, but got a 200. And that's when I realized, okay, I'm going to change this from 201, which I had for another recipe, to 200, and go back to the runner and run again, and it'll work. So, just showing you some of the problems that I had in case you see something similar. So you can just let that run, and now you'll have all of your product templates get updated. And now the nice thing is I've got this recipe set up. So the next product your product type in the fine linen and bath store I'm going to work on are bath products, right? So just did the bedding ones. And when I do bath, I'm going to make a new template for the bath products. And then now I'll be able to easily come in here, find all my bath product IDs, and set it up to change the templates to the new template that I'm going to make product.bath for all the bath products. So hopefully this gives you an idea of how you can use Postman to do bulk editing of product templates. Thanks for watching.